Thanks to Walked-In Entertainment, I got sent a pretty intriguing movie starring Jon Hamm called Corner Office, and I want to talk about it with you guys, so let's get into it. So this film is directed by Joachim Back, who has directed an Academy Award winning live-action short film, and this film is quite intriguing in its premise. It follows our protagonist, played by Jon Hamm. There's a lot of inner monologuing going on here, and it's a lot of narration going on from Jon Hamm that details his ambition and rise through the corporate world. And when he's new and trying to figure out the lay of the land and how things work, the dynamics between the staff and the layout of the office, he discovers a corner office, a room that he goes in and only he seems to really have knowledge about it. And because of that, we start getting an almost thriller mystery going on about, is this just a metaphor being presented? Is this guy crazy? Or is everyone else kind of nuts and doesn't have the ambition that he does? This character is very self-centered and arrogant, and because of that, he looks down on his peers and gets annoyed and frustrated with them. And in a way, I really like the commentary on the way that an office runs. It is very accurate in some ways, the frustrations that you have and the things that you go through, and the way that people treat and talk and interact with each other in an office is so different from the way that we normally do. And I think this film does do a pretty good job of showing that and illustrating those dynamics. I also think in the lead role, Jon Hamm is quite good in this movie. I don't think it's astounding career best work from him, but it is solid. And he fits the narrative nicely. He does exactly what he needs to become a character that you're pretty interested in. And this film could really fall apart and be really boring because of what it's going into, but the film manages to be quite interesting throughout its entire runtime, which isn't too long. It's quite manageable. It makes it quite a breezy watch and quite an intriguing one that I was just consistently very interested in seeing where it was going to go and uncovering a little bit more about what is actually going on here. This does have its fair share of issues though. Particularly, it doesn't really seem to give the most satisfying answers to everything. It does give some answers that answers some questions. There's a lot of metaphors and a lot of thinking to do during this film, but it doesn't seem all that complex. And the answers that the film gives make it very black and white as to what is really going on. And I would have liked that mystery to have continued and given the audience a lot more to chew on in terms of an interpretation, because that's what this film seems to be doing for a lot of the film's runtime. And then by the end, it's just, this is what happened. And the answer, as I said, wasn't the greatest answer in the world. Yes, it was one. It wasn't terrible. It was fine. But I just think it could have been even better and really wrapped up everything that it was trying to say in a much more satisfying way, because I think this film does have a lot that it wants to say, and it doesn't manage to communicate that all that well at points. It also does have a little bit of that feel of a short film that has been blown out to be a feature-length film. I think as a short film, this would have been really, really effective, and maybe have been, once again, Academy Award kind of standard with how interesting the premise is and how good the performances are and the mystery behind the whole thing. But as a full feature-length film, it does get lost in its way a little bit, and at points, it kind of takes a step back, especially when it starts introducing some new characters that it wants to dive deep into. It just doesn't work as well, and it kind of loses its footing a little bit as we get to those moments. Luckily, it does pick itself back up at points and manages to really give you something more to chew on, but there were real lulls in this narrative. Overall, I think Corner Office is a fine enough movie. It's not one that I would probably rewatch again, but as this one watch, it was intriguing, it was interesting enough, and the performances were fine enough. I think that there is a lot to digest in this film that is quite interesting. The way that it talks about the status of rising up through the corporate ladder and these interactions. I think there is something interesting to be said here, and the film does talk about it in some interesting ways, but in others it falters and it loses its step a little. Overall, I'm going to give Corner Office a 3 out of 5. If you're into a more mysterious kind of film that gives you a lot to think about, this might be one for you, but it's not top of the genre or anything like that, but overall it's fine enough. And those are my thoughts towards Corner Office. Let me know what you think about the film in the comments below. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.